Welcome to MehtaEthics. Today I'm talking with George about antinatalism. Do you want to introduce
Mm.
yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm George, George from Greece. We talk about antinatalism, but I'm also vegan and an activist about animal rights. Yeah, and basically that's it. Nothing else, I guess. So,
Great.
um,
And I think like the first place to start is obviously defining antinatalism, right? How would you
mm,
like roughly define it? And I'm happy to just go off your definition.
um, well, I'm not a very unfortunate definition guy, but I guess I will say. Basically, antinatalism reject the idea of procreation, like as a whole. Um, it's I don't know, is that okay, or should I expand more on it?
Well, like by rejecting the idea of procreation, like I guess by rejecting the idea, do you mean like the belief that it's like morally wrong or
Um,
something else?
Morally wrong. Yeah, I mean, maybe I will use again the what I said last in our last discussion, like morally problematic. And I want to say that because I'm not a hardcore antinatalist. I don't think it's always, no matter the circumstances, wrong. I think it's context dependent. So it very likely we can create a world or like make a hypothetical that it's okay to procreate. It's just in this current state of events of this world, right? I think it's yeah, there is a problem in most cases, just like
Okay.
that.
I guess like I need to know the view you want to convince me of, right? So
Right.
I'm gonna keep going
Mm.
until it's clear. So like something like the belief that in this current state of events,
Mm.
procreation as a whole is morally wrong.
Um, in our world, how it is right now, I think yes. Yeah, let's say yes. Although, in morality, there are things that are worse and less like bad and like yeah, there are states, right? There are things that are more bad and things that are less bad. I put like procreation in the less bad. It's not like the worst thing imaginable. Thus, I'm not going outside or advocate for, antinatalism, right? I do vegan activism. I think it's more important, right?
Hmm.
And much more serious. But still, I hold the view that, it's better not to procreate. Let's say it like that. Yeah.
Okay. The belief that procreation in this current state of events as a whole is morally wrong. Do we need that as a whole?
Um, You mean if in this current state of event, if there is a context like or a situation that it could not be wrong?
What I mean is just other words as a whole contributing anything, or could we just define it as the belief that procreation in this current state of events is morally wrong?
Yeah, let's make it simpler. So sure, let's remove whole and see how it goes.
And is that for like, well, is that for all sentient beings or just for humans?
Um, well, I think I will add all sentient beings. Now maybe we then go to a territory more different a bit, like we will trespassing existentialism maybe. I'm not sure. Which okay, I guess. I'm also kind of an existentialist. No, sorry,
Sorry, what do you
Exti
mean in this?
extinctionalist, if I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
mistaken. That's the word. Yeah, fuck my English. So yeah, so yeah, right? Because I think like in this world, I would prefer not to exist than exist. Like in the grand scale of things, right? If we imagine a scale, right, that is makes one side is it good this world exists, and in the other side is not, good that this world exists. In my view, the scale yields to, better this world not exist. So, but that's, I guess, maybe a little bit different, tangent, like topic, right, to go into extinctionalism, right?
Okay, so I
Uh,
think I understand the definition we're operating under, um, which is antinatalism is the belief that procreation in this current state of events is morally wrong for all sentient beings. Um, Now, I might have mentioned this last time we talked, uh, but like someone like myself, who's a moral anti-realist, I'm just going to interpret morally wrong as like against my preferences, right? So,
sure. Yeah.
so I understand that uh, being a preference I could have, but it's
Mm,
not one I currently have. So I guess I would just
mm,
say that like my current stance, as it is I'm unconvinced, or rather, I would just say it's not against my preferences
mm,
um, for all sentient beings to, I would say procreation of all sentient beings is not against my preferences.
right.
Um, but
Okay.
I'm happy to hear out, maybe reasons that you have and see if
Right.
they persuade me one way or the other. And I'll
Sure.
also
Sure.
add that um, I think I mentioned in the past, I would have identified as an anti-natalist, but right now I'm not. I
Right.
have
Mm.
become sort of unconvinced.
Sure. So may I start?
Yeah, yeah,
Sure. Then, well, first I would like to ask a few things. So,
sure.
one, what was the thing that, convinced you or make you an antinatalist, like before, right? Like when you were. So, what was the thing that, motivates you or convince you for that, have that stance?
Um, it wasn't just one thing.
Mm,
Um, I think at the time, like I feel like, so I first heard about it through veganism. A lot of vegans tend to be anti-natalist. Um, and one day I decided to I was sort of thinking of it by myself, right? Like I was kind of going through an existential crisis, thinking, why do I exist? What's the point of existing? And also feeling like existence is just full of so much suffering. Why am I here? And then I remembered, oh, there's this thing called antinatalism. And so I looked it up, and I suppose that sort of resonated with me, and I felt like I was being heard. And then I found things like David Benatar and his like axiological asymmetry. I read his book, Better Never to Have Been, and at the time I found it quite convincing, and so I considered myself an antinatalist.
right. Okay. So those things help you add that identity, I guess. So then, after that time, what was the thing that convince you or like make you stop? Right? You hear like maybe an argument, someone told you something. Like, what happened and you stopped?
Yeah, also a couple things. So the first was getting into Ask Yourself and Dr. Avi. Are you familiar
Mhm.
with those figures?
Yes.
Yeah. So through them, I learned about the argument from ecological niches, which is basically like an internal critique that
How,
like
say that again, ecological?
um ecological niches. I can send it to you.
Oh, that would be great because I don't know how to write niches.
I just posted it in the Zoom chat.
Ecological. Uh-huh.
Um,
Okay.
so it's essentially like um, an argument that basically says like it, it starts from the point of accepting the view that like we should just prevent life, right? So it's an internal critique. And the argument like basically says that even if we accept the view that we should prevent procreation,
Mhm.
it's still good for humans to procreate. And the reason for that is
Mhm.
because, at least in the first world, um, human existence takes up a certain amount of land, right? For every human that's going to be born, a certain amount of land is paved to make way for, I don't know, car parks or skate parks or
Mhm. Right.
museums, right?
Okay.
Um, and so by procreating as humans, um, we can also we can actually reduce the amount of procreation or life in the world. And that's typically happening in against wild animals who have extremely poor quality of life, often dying by being eaten alive. There's a few other ways to formulate the argument, like breeding more humans into existence would mean that we have more brains who can contribute to technology that would actually be needed in order to end all life, if that's the goal. Um, but yeah, that's the gist of it.
I see.
So I would
Oh,
say,
mm,
just to finish answering your question, that was one thing which I sat on for a long time, thought about, and honestly coped about for a long time until I accepted it. And
mm,
then the other is becoming unconvinced of David Benatar's axiological asymmetry. Well, I used to
mhm,
be like a pretty big supporter. I even made a video defending it.
mm,
I no longer defend it. I basically think it doesn't make sense. And I'm
mm.
in the process of making a video about why that's the case.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
I will say, just to add on to this, I have actually met David Benatar in person, and
Mm,
I spoke to him, and I asked him about the argument from ecological niches and a couple critiques of his asymmetry, and I found his responses uh, honestly like very bad, and I made a video talking about that interaction.
okay. And you said you will make a new video about the asymmetry and like debunk it?
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah,
Oh, well, I would really like to see that, you know. I think it's interesting because
yeah.
it's not the thing that convinced me, but I don't see any like flaws there, let's say, yet. So,
Mhm.
you know, can't wait to see, you know, your video, I guess. Um, so okay, cool. So just few pushback, I guess, that I just come on top of my head about the ecological niche. But first of all, that is only for humans, right? As I understand it, it's not for non-human animals, right? Because it's
Yeah, it's
supposed
it's
to,
just
yeah. Yeah.
It's just saying, well, like keep in mind it's an internal critique, right? So like I don't even have to accept the idea that we should prevent procreation, but it's just saying that even if we think we should prevent procreation, human procreation would still be good because it will, uh, for every human that's born, every one human that's born, um, many, many, many more wild animals could not be born.
And and
But the
if
same
this
is not
con
true of like an ant, obviously.
and if that continues, the end result will be like completely dominate the whole like natural ecosystem, and so there will be no more wild animals or something, or
Yeah, yeah.
I see. Okay, then I guess my first pushback on that will be, even though that I don't have any reason to deny that, as more humans, you know, as the population rise, all the things you said might be very likely true. Still, most of humans are not vegan, so more animals will suffer, but not the animals in nature, but the animals that we grow, we farm for food and all of those, clothing and all of that shit, right? So more humans means more suffering in some animals, like the farm animals. So how you calculate that this is not worse than the what happened in nature, right? And what you do there.
Yeah, it's a good point. But I firstly, I'm happy to answer that, but I firstly would flag that like this is not really like an argument that I'm running against you, right? You asked why I became unconvinced of anti-natalism, and I said this is one of the reasons, the internal critique. So
Mm,
we like initially started sort of with the idea that you were going to convince me.
mm.
If you want to sort of take a break and you just want to ask me about the argument from ecological niches, I'm happy to go there, but I am flagging that that is like a slight topic shift. Um,
Um, I don't
so
think
is it?
so. And I'll tell you why. Because that the ecological niche is what convinced you to stop being antinatalist. So if I
Mhm.
debunk that, then you have no reason to to be a natalist again, right? Because that was the thing
No, no,
that make you. Huh.
I think if the argument from ecological niches. Well, because the issue is the argument from ecological niches assumes antinatalism, right? I'm not even saying procreation is wrong, but the argument assumes it is wrong, right? So it's not the case that if there was a problem with the argument, then I suddenly would go back to being an antinatalist. The argument is for antinatalists. It's saying that if you are an antinatalist, you should actually have as many kids as possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kinda. Yes, I kind
Yeah.
of get it. It's okay. I just need to focus, to use my brain 100% because
Yeah.
I'm not very. I don't discuss antinatalism basically almost never. So because
Yeah.
I do vegan activism, so this whole thing is kind of like new to discuss it, right? Yes, I also
Mhm.
read the book. Never better to have been. I see some videos online, but many things is just how I perceive it by myself, like discover myself, and then I draw like sources of information, and then reinforce more, what I already for many many years before I learned about, the YouTubers and David Benatar, to help me more reinforce this position. So,
Yeah.
but it's
And I
it's
would say the same is
yeah.
true for me. Like, it's
Mm,
very rare that I get the opportunity to
mm.
discuss antinatalism. So I'm actually really happy that you asked to call about this subject.
Well, I'm glad. It's just I don't think I will be necessarily a very good combatant, right? I don't think I'm really good because that's not the field of my expertise, let's say, right? So,
Mhm.
uh,
I mean,
I
that's
don't
totally
think,
fine, but I would also
yeah,
say the
I will
same
make
for
hard your
myself.
point. Yeah. That's okay. Let's try to have fun. So, okay, fair enough. So about that thing. Uh, okay, then let me then try maybe give you my main reasons why I'm antinatalist, and maybe you can, we find some common ground, and then you can push back my reasons or find them convincing enough. I don't know. I guess that's how we can like evolve this conversation. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm happy to go down that route.
Okay. So, well, apart from the classic ones that you already know, perhaps, like YouTubers and David Benatar and people say, I don't want to go that, mainstream road. I will give you my own. Well, I guess it's not my own necessarily. Maybe you hear those things before. I don't think they're that common. Um, so yeah, I will skip like, how about the consent of the individual that is going to born? How about like you gamble for its life and maybe suffer, maybe have infectious disease and cancer and all that shit, right? I see videos people say about those things as arguments that don't do it because it's you gamble for someone else's life and that's
Hmm.
bad and who give you the right to do that and blah blah blah. But instead of going there, um, and like the dangers of that subject going to have in the world, I like to go more into a different area, which is what that individual, that subject, that what will do or might do, probably do to the world itself. So um, now maybe this will tie a bit veganism too, I guess, but it's unavoidable because most people are not vegan and most people who have kids are not vegan. So when they procreate and they make a kid, their kid will not be vegan, right? They will feed it animal products, and statistically speaking, they will grow up raised in an environment like that and keep eating animals. So especially for non-vegans, creating like procreating will increase quite a lot the suffering, and that individual will actually contribute to the rights violations of other sentient creatures, non-human animals, but very likely humans too, right? People born like innocent kids and become serial killers, rapists, right? Do war crimes. Bad things can happen to them and to others, right? So not only in non-human animals, but also in human animals, they will contribute to their suffering and pain and disutility and all that shit. So I think that was for me the main thing, not just the individual itself, that what's gonna happen to them, but what them going to do to others. That's my main concern, especially if you're not vegan again. Now, if you're a vegan, still I will argue that you know, yeah, it's better, I guess, to be vegan and procreate than not be vegan, but still, it's very likely that your kid, even if you raise it as vegan, won't grow up and leave the house, will still be vegan. Will find a partner that is not vegan, introduce him to the carnivore diet. Who the fuck knows, right? And just brainwash them, and just now they are carnivores and influencers and influence more people to go carnivore. So that's also a possibility. So why you risk that too? But yeah, so that was my main things in that make me think, okay, better not procreate to completely eradicate those chances, right? Which almost is 99% certain that will occur. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, okay. So I think these are mostly what David Benatar would like categorize as like misanthropic arguments. So as opposed
Mhm.
to like um philanthropic arguments, which are like, oh, what about the suffering of the child? It's more so like, what about, the bad things the child may do?
Mhm.
Um, so I'll start with a point of agreement, which is about like non-vegans, right? Um,
Mhm.
obviously, most vegans were born by non-vegans like myself and whatnot.
Hmm.
However, I would pretty much just agree with you on that. Like, in the same sense, if yeah, basically, I would say I don't think non-vegans should procreate, assuming they're going to pass down their beliefs. Um, in the same way that if there was a really horrible racist and he was going to have kids and raise his kids as really horrible racists, I wouldn't want that either, right? Um,
Hmm.
I think a lot of humans do very bad things. Eating meat is one of those things. And I wouldn't want more humans doing that. Um, so I pretty much agree with you. And I would say the same thing for wild animals like lions or whatnot. I think I could be wrong about the numbers, but I think the average lion in the wild kills and eats about 100 gazelle. And I consider that pretty unacceptable. So I don't think lions should procreate either. But that's a bit of
Hmm.
a tangent. The point is just to say, when it comes to non-vegans, I agree with you on that. All right, that's clear.
Right. Okay. Sure. Hmm. But
And
it's not
then,
good enough. It's not good enough for convince you that we should not procreate for that reason, right? It's just, you know.
well, the issue is that I think vegans should procreate, right? Or at least I don't think it's wrong for them to procreate, right? Um,
Okay.
so the the 2 points I have against vegans procreating are basically like they may hurt other people and they may stop being vegan. Is that pretty much it, right?
Yeah, that if you born your child vegan, right, there is a possibility, and I will argue big possibility to stop being vegan at one point in their lifetime, right? So
Mhm.
that's the main thing. And yeah, I mean, I tied together harming people and non like humans and non-humans because I'll say animals broadly, right? Like hurting sentient creatures, let's call it like that. So it's all together.
Yeah, yeah, of
Mm.
course. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I would just say that I agree. Obviously, I agree. There's a possibility, right? And
Mm.
to give you an anecdote, actually, I once met a woman who uh, was vegan from birth, right? So her parents were vegan, she was raised vegan, and she's still
Okay.
vegan, right? She's in her 20s, um, or maybe 30s now. Um, yeah, 30s, because I was like 15 when I met her. Um,
Mm.
but she was a twin, right? She had
Okay.
a twin brother. Um, and even though she's still vegan, and I actually met her at an animal rights activism event, she told me that her twin brother stopped being vegan on his 18th birthday. Um, and there's a lot to say about that. Obviously, I think that's a very bad thing. Um, but by and large, we don't really know what the rate is, right? And I would be, I like if I could see that every kid a vegan has is definitely going to become non-vegan or similar, um, or just extremely high amounts of them will, then maybe I would accept that view. But as it stands, I think there's at least a good chance of them staying vegan. And I would say I mean, if I had to guess, I would say it's more likely than not, right? I mean, you can see, I don't think this is good evidence, right? But just as some evidence, you can hear from vegan children, and they tend to be quite passionate about it because they were never indoctrinated into eating meat. So basically, I'd say, even though it's a possibility, I'm not really sure that mere possibility is enough to convince me that having kids is wrong. And obviously the same thing would apply for humans, right? Like, I mean, the amount of people that are like grow up to be serial killers is like extremely small, right? So I don't think like the small possibility that that is the case would necessarily convince me. It would have to be like there's like a real solid, very high chance that they're going to stop being vegan.
Hmm. Yeah, so the strongest, I guess, the strongest argument is uh, the meat eating, right? Not the serial killer or rapist or what have you, because I agree those are small like chances, right? Or become the next Hitler, for example, right? What are the
Hmm.
chances for that? Um, right. So, okay, then let me ask you this. What what I need to say or what it requires for you, like what it requires for you to convince you for antinatalism, like what you want, what you expect, what you want to see.
Um, well, um, I think, I mean, I think I gave you one point, which is that if you convinced me the risk is really high. Also, just on that, I might add, I don't want to go down a huge tangent, but I will say that perhaps unlike other vegans, I'm actually quite optimistic about veganism. I think that within my lifetime, we may see a vegan world, um, which
Okay.
I don't know. Most vegans don't actually seem to agree with me on.
True.
But to convince me that anti-natalism is true, I mean, it's hard to give you that answer, right? Because I'm not convinced. But maybe if you convinced me that like all life is just going to be like pure like abject suffering or something similar, I don't know.
Okay.
You're
I
presumably you're supposed to be the one with the arguments, right? No, no
Right.
shade.
Right. Sure. So about suffering is pure agonies and suffer and all that. That's actually true for the 99 around percent of all sentient life, is it not?
And yeah, and yeah, and so for
So
those cases, I would agree. Like I think that we should pretty much get rid of most wildlife.
right, but you go only on one direction. How about the direction of what humans do, right? Because wild suffering is not, as we talked before about uh, moral obligations, right, in the previous conversation. It's not like we are morally obligated to end wild suffering. It's not up to us. It's a good thing to do, but no one is morally obligated to take a shotgun, go outside, and start killing lions. But we are morally obligated to not harm others by ourselves, right, as individuals. So it's much more urgent to stop, like the things we do, like, the factory farming and all that creatures we exploit and torture and murder and mutilate and rape because of us. I think that's worse because again, it's something that I mean, we, not the vegans necessarily, but most people do in their daily lives, right? Like they participate in a system that exploit and enslave others, right? So
Right, but I'm not sure how that interacts with what I said because, like as you noted, I'm already vegan, right? I'm already not participating in that.
right, but yes, you're right, but and I guess you also said you are so you are actually, I mean, you're kind of anti-natalist in a sense then, because if I'm not mistaken, you say, yeah, the non-vegans, it will be better for them not to procreate. Only vegans should procreate. So in a sense, you are kind of like semi-antinatalist or something.
I think so, right? Like, well, I don't use the term anti-natalist, because like I feel like the way that's used typically is to like say that well, just procreation is wrong, something like that. And I
Right.
think even the definition that we settled on at the start of this debate, the belief that procreation in this current state of events is morally wrong for all sentient beings, doesn't apply to me, right? Because I don't believe
R-
it's wrong for
right.
vegans to
Right.
procreate.
So you are not an
And
antinatalist in
I
this
will
in
add that like I don't think like this should be obvious, right? But maybe for anyone watching, I don't think non-vegans should stop procreating overnight, right? Because that would probably lead to the collapse of human civilization, which I think would be very bad. But you know, if they're not going to quit veganism, then sort of a um, the phased vegan
right.
takeover would be happy, or
So you
keeping it
are
to a minimum.
okay. So you are not an antinatalist in the sense of antinatalism is or natalism is inherently wrong or an antinatalism is inherently good, but you are in the sense of most people, right? Maybe in the long run, as you just said, that society might collapse and all that, but in the long run, yeah, vegans should keep procreating and non-vegans should stop procreating. So yeah, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, I also think that like when I use the word like inherently, right? Inherently wrong. I don't think like in a vacuum it's wrong to just create life. I think that, and I think I make myself clear at the beginning that based on the context, right? I think it's better not to have this world because the way it is right now. Now,
Mhm.
of course, maybe if we have a crystal ball and we see in 100 years, I know this world becomes paradise, maybe I will change my mind, right?
Hmm.
But we don't have that. And the way I see now, plus, unlike you, I'm not optimistic. I am pessimistic, right?
All right.
So, yeah, and quite a lot. So I don't think there is much hope for the animals. And the idea of like every second right now, there are hundreds of thousands of, cows, pigs, chickens, what have you, that have, the throat slit open. Every second is like, holy shit, it's it's like, you know, it blows my mind that it's happening right now. Like every time before I sleep, I'm like, holy shit, another day, another like how many millions, tens of millions of highly sentient creatures similar with us in respect to sentience. They just, scream and tortured and, murdered. Like, so, maybe it's emotion that makes me want to, I'm emotional that I'm like, holy shit, I want this to end right now, no matter what.
Mhm.
So yeah, maybe this is more like my emotional state that controls me and not so rational. I don't think so, but maybe.
I have two things to say to that. One is that while you were talking, I think I just thought of a potentially good argument for vegans having kids. But so I'm just flagging that. I'd like to run that by you soon. But
Hmm.
just to respond to what you just said, I mean, it's largely agreement, right? I feel like the biggest difference is just our optimism. And potentially I'm in the minority with my optimism, but it kind of seems that like if you had my optimism, you might share my view, and if I had your pessimism, uh, optimism and pessimism about what the future Earth might look like, I might share your view. Is that pretty much right?
I don't know. I don't know if it ends up just for that, but I will say, yeah, it's possible.
Or,
What you said is
or at
is
least
just
the largest
yes.
reason, even if it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, it's highly possible. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Hmm. Okay, so now I guess I'm thinking about this reason I thought of, or whether we could talk about optimism and pessimism. Um, hmm. Okay, you. Let me just make a note of
Excuse me, make what?
that. I'm just writing a note.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So I'm happy to talk about why I'm optimistic, but first I'd like to run this by you, right? You made the point earlier that vegan, if I have a vegan child, right? Obviously, I can only
Mm.
guarantee they're vegan up until what, maybe even the age of 5, right? Um,
Yeah, right. I was thinking 18, but then I was like, what if, go outside, like in school, say, buy something non-vegan because his friends buy it. So I guess,
mhm,
yeah, the only guaranteeing 100% is in your control 24/7.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought of a point against that, which is, um, well, firstly, it's not strictly relevant, but have you ever convinced somebody else to be vegan?
Sure.
Okay, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I would say I have too, right? Very rarely I've convinced strangers on the street to be vegan. It's very rare, but it has happened a few times. They've said like, "Oh, okay, that's it. I'm going vegan." Um, and I've also convinced my mother to be vegan, my sister to be vegan. I've convinced uh, people I've been in relationships with to be vegan, and I've convinced many of my friends to be vegan, right?
Good for you, mate. Really good.
So, and yeah, this is not trying to be like a big bragging session or anything, right? But the point is, let's say I stop being vegan, right? Obviously, I'm never going to do that, but let's say I stop. The amount of vegans as a direct result of me going vegan has gone up by like more than 5, right?
Okay.
So if I then that's just laying the bedding for if vegans have children, yes, some of those children will almost certainly stop being vegan, right?
Yeah, makes
However,
sense. Yes. Nah.
we also have to consider that the children that remain vegan, which I would expect is most, but it doesn't even have to be most. It could be a minority, and this would still be true. The children that remain vegan will convince others to be vegan, right? So even if most of the children vegans have stop being vegan, it could still be the case that having children as a vegan is going to overall increase the proportion of vegans. And I think the simplest way to think of that is if you have a vegan child that stops being vegan, that's only one less vegan, right? But if you
Mm-hmm.
have a vegan child who convinces others to be vegan, well, that could be 2 more vegans, that could be 5 more vegans, that could be 10 more vegans.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes.
And so I consider that quite convincing. I think that
Hmm.
outweighs, yeah, I think that outweighs the risk of your child not being vegan. But if we assume that every vegan just convinces 1.1 other people to be vegan, then even if 50% of vegan children stop being vegan, the proportion of vegans will go up.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it sounds convincing, like in the first glance. Now, still
And I
though,
just thought of that,
it,
so it's first glance
right,
for me too.
right. The only thing that makes me hesitate is that if it's your kid though, right, becomes personal, and then you are like, holy shit, maybe in the grand scheme of things, like, yeah, at least, I try, and I know someone else kid might be, convince others, but then it's like a more like a responsibility of yourself, like I create a serial killer in a sense, right?
Hmm.
So the risk is still there for you personally, even in the grand scheme of things. Is just, like you said. So again, why you will risk that risk then for you, right? Why you will risk, serial killer just because it's like put things like it's like a whole pool, right? And with no, that's not a good actually. Um, how can I phrase it better? But I think you understand what I mean, right? That if it's you're the kid, right, that will not be the vegan, right? Even if in your mind thinking, well, at least, other kids will do better, like other kids from other families might still be vegan and convince others people to be vegan. My kid is not. So it's like you are partially responsible for that kid because it's your kid, you created, and now it's not vegan. And I can also say, because that's also a possibility, that convince others vegan not to be vegan by saying I had vegan parents, but veganism is a scam and blah blah blah, and find other kids who are vegan and try to convince them the other way around. So you have that too in the equation. How about that?
Yeah, that's possible. And if my kids stopped being vegan, I'd probably feel quite bad about that, of course. Um, but I don't think that necessarily pushes back against the point as a whole, right? Like there's a whole bunch of reasons why I personally may or may not have children. Um, but it's still like the point is about the risk, right? Sorry. If it's not obvious, I'm a little bit sick at the moment. Um,
Hmm.
the point is about the risk, right? And so I've given you a point saying that like, well, this is why it might be okay to run the risk. And what you're saying is kind of like, oh, okay, but like, you know, if the risk ended up being bad, then it would be bad. And it's like, well, of course that's the case. But
Right, but
like
it
that still
becomes
doesn't change that the risk is worth it, right?
right. But I'm also point out the other way around that, as you said, your the X kids will remain vegan and convince X non-vegans. The other
Hmm.
way can be too,
Right. Well,
right?
that's the second point, right? But you understand
Right.
my objection to the first point?
I think so, yes.
Okay, right. With the second point, I guess I would just say that I'm pretty unconvinced of that. Like I've I've never really seen someone, I mean, maybe it happens occasionally online, like you get crazy like ex-vegans.
Well,
But
all the
like it
time,
doesn't,
actually. All the time. So many YouTubers, they say, I'm an ex-vegan and tell their stories. And they have thousands of subscribers, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and see their videos. And some percentage of them that may want to try to be vegan, they say, oh, my favorite YouTuber stopped to be vegan because
Mhm.
her reasonings. And here you have it then.
Yeah, like okay, I would love to like this is something where I'd love to see data on, right? We don't have that data. So all we can really talk about is what seems, credulous. And I'd say it seems to me unlikely. Like this is a total anecdote, right? But I have a group of friends who they went vegan about 5 years after me when Alex O'Connor was big, right?
Oh,
So
right.
I know multiple people who went vegan as a direct result of Alex O'Connor, Cosmic Skeptic, right?
Right.
And now I'm sure you're aware Alex O'Connor is no longer vegan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But all of those people are still vegan. And in fact, I don't know a single person that has stopped being vegan because of Alex O'Connor. Partly because I think his reasons for stopping veganism are just like so terrible. Um,
Sure, there might be though.
so
Just because you
like
don't know,
if
that doesn't mean it's not exist, right? That person.
Yeah, it's possible again, right? So like I would say it adds a little more weight to the other side, right? Like it is possible that your children could be raised vegan and they might not like it and then convince others not to try it or to quit veganism. But I'm not sure there's much I can say to that other than it seems very unlikely to me.
But you don't ask for data in your case, but you ask for data in the other case, even though
Well,
they're exactly
I
the
would
same, just
love to
flipped.
see, I would love to see data in both cases, but all I can really talk about is what seems likely. And I know that vegans do tend to trend towards convincing others to be vegan, right?
Yeah, that's true. And maybe more so than people who are stopping vegan. But then yet we have all of those
Like if you stop
evidence,
being
like,
vegan, you're kind of just like back with the non-vegans, right? Like
right. But like, again, we have all of those people, ex-vegans, YouTubers, hundreds of them that make videos about why they're not looking vegan. And, some of their audience will never go vegan because of that, or they were vegan because of them. And now that they stop, some of them might stop too. So I don't know
maybe.
why
I mean, I'm
I
not sure
personally.
I've like I don't think I've ever seen a single comment saying like, "Oh, okay, you stopped being vegan, I'm going to stop now too." Right? But
Yeah,
I do see
maybe,
it in the
maybe
other way,
not,
like,
but
"Oh, you've gone vegan, this makes a lot of sense. I'm going to do it
sure,
too."
sure. All I'm
Right?
saying that
But
for me, I don't have any reason to, or I don't have strong reason. Maybe I have some reasons, but I have strong reason to think this your side, that side you advocate, or you said is more strong than the other side, according to all of those people who, when they stop being vegan, they brag about it and they say how bad veganism is. Plus,
Mhm.
don't forget we have all of like the society itself, all of those articles about, oh, a vegan died from it was from malnutrition and whatnot, right? Like all of those influenced who they were vegan and they died. Like actually, it was, yeah, the Jubilee channel. It has
Mhm.
it was a video I watched it like about one vegan versus 20 non-vegans. It was
Ah,
like a few
yeah, the
days
new
ago.
one.
Yeah, yeah, I watched it. And actually, in fact, one of the people, the non-vegans, bring up that what Russian influencer that she died because she ate only fruits and stuff. Like, and people hang on those stories, even though it's just an anecdote, it's just a story, but people, I don't know, I guess they're not that smart. So they just listen to the story and they get, oh my God, veganism is unhealthy. Look at that. Someone died because was vegan. Has nothing to do with veganism. It's all about, she didn't eat well. It can happen both ways, even if you're a vegan or you're not vegan. But people are not so rational when it comes to that for some reason. I don't know. Their brains switch off or something. And you see, those things keep, that happened so many years ago, but they keep bringing them up, those people, right? In those big channels and in those debates, right? I mean, it's pathetic, but, people hear that and get scared, get convinced, so I don't think it's unreasonable to think that the other way around works too.
Yeah, well, we do have to talk about the other way around, right? Maybe the best thing I could say is something like, I know that vegans tend to bring other people to veganism, right? Like I've convinced people to be vegan, you've convinced people to be vegan, right?
Yeah, yeah, I agree
Um,
with that. I
but
agree with that. Yeah.
I guess I'm just not so sure that the reverse is the case.
Yeah, not in the same way. I don't think I agree with you. I don't think they advocate for non-be vegan. I think people say their stories, and the stories for not be vegan anymore because their stories are convincing to the masses, right? That's what I'm saying.
Right,
I'm
so
not
more
saying they
so like
advocate against. Yeah.
it's not necessarily they'll advocate, it's just that they might become ammunition.
Right, but the effect is still the same, right? Even though the end result is the same. More people get scared about veganism, or people say about veganism, it's it's what's the word? Oh man. Many things, not only about nutrition or about like health, about, it's militants, vegans are militants, or they try to push you into their cult, right? They use a lot of those type of words, right? To scare you of veganism. Like, it's a bad thing to be vegan, it means you are, very selfish, very self-righteous, very this, very that, very pussy. So, the end result is the same. Many people don't go vegan because they hear all of those things and get scared, get convinced, and the result is the same. They're not going to try, they're not going to investigate more about veganism. So, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I'm not so sure that the like anti-vegan like talking points are like too relevant here, right? But what is relevant is like whether like our vegan children stop being vegan and become ammunition, right? And I'm not so sure that that would even matter, right? Because let's say someone's, got like a machine gun and they're firing at, I don't know, the specter of veganism, right? If
mhm,
they have like the US armies, um, all of the ammunition in the US Army, and then I go and I give them like a magazine, I give them like six bullets. It
mhm,
doesn't really matter, right? They're never going to get through all of that anyway. So, like, there's
mhm,
the point just being there's already enough cases of people stopping being vegan, right? Like,
mhm.
and one more case doesn't really like add fuel to the fire, right? Like, as you said, this person was years ago and is still being talked about, right? So I don't really see like why one more case would necessarily matter because all they really need is one case to bang on about, right?
Well, they don't matter in the same thing. Then also, if one goes vegan, doesn't matter in the grand scheme of thing, but it matters for
No,
the
it does
victims.
matter
For the
because they're
victims.
actually going to convince other people to be vegan.
No, not necessarily. Many
Not
vegans
necess
are mind their own business. They're not
not
activists. They don't
necessarily,
talk
right? But
about
as
it.
we talked about, we only need a minority to be convincing others.
Right, but like no, not all.
Or even just to, they don't necessarily even have to be convincing others, right? The point about them convincing others is just that it can offset their own uh recidivism rate, right? So like for example, if half of kids raised vegan stop being vegan, but the other half convinced even just one person to be vegan over their lifetime, then it'll grow, right? And I've convinced more than five
Right,
people. You've convinced some amount of
sure.
people.
Like if from a utility perspective, sure, but the ones who gonna do the bad things, they're gonna do the bad things. So which is like the rights violation and the horrible things gonna do. So it's not all about like how many, like the end result is about you gamble about that, like you create a life, and then you hope as a vegan it will remain. And and of course, if also that your child become an activist, even much better. Sure, maybe not, maybe just mind their own business and don't talk about it to anyone, who knows. But and that's all good, right? That's positive. But if they not do those things and stray away from veganism, then that's really bad, right? And like we say, one is a moral obligation, one is not. You are not morally obligated to do activism. You are not morally obligated to, to convince other people to be vegan, but you are morally obligated not to harm others. So there is an obligation there that if your child uh, stop being vegan, you're partially responsible for their decision, even though, well, you may say, well, they are moral agents now, right? They can make their own minds and it's not your fault necessarily. But if you have never created them, this will never happen. So why you take the risk, right? That's my
Right, but
question.
you see how that's like just going back to like, oh, but what if the risk is bad, right? The point is, I'm convinced that the risk could be worth it. And if you're just saying, oh, but like if it ends up being bad, it's like, well, I took that risk, right?
Right. So can be bad, can be good, or you can do nothing and be neutral. So or like non-existent, right?
Right,
So
but like, uh, I mean, again, like those are the three options, right? But I've got no reason to believe that like taking no action is better. Like the risk could be worth it, right?
yeah,
And
but why you risk though? That's what I'm for me that's the issue. Why you
because
gonna take the
maybe
gamble?
it's not clear, but I think the risk is like going to like pan out. Like if I have like say like let's say I have like a dice,
Yeah.
right? Six-sided dice,
Okay.
and let's say um something good happens if I roll numbers 1 to 5, right? So one, two, three, four,
Okay.
five, something good happens.
Okay.
Number 6, something bad happens,
Okay.
right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying like, yeah, let's roll the dice. And what I'm getting from you is like, oh, but what if it lands on 6? What if it lands on 6? And I'm like, well, yeah,
Mm,
sure. Then I'll accept that consequence, but it could land on 1, could land on 2, 3, 4, 5. And then
right.
you're saying like, oh, well, maybe just don't roll it at all. And
Right.
it's like,
Although
well, I don't see
by
why I should
doing
do that.
your example though, it's kinda unfair because you already assumes that the chances are so higher, like 5 out of 6 to
Well,
be
that's just
good.
one example, right? And I've said like
Right,
the
but
chances
make
wouldn't
it make it
necessarily need to
fair.
be
Make it
that
at least
high.
right. Make it fair. Three versus like 1 to 3, 4 to 6. Right.
No, I wouldn't
Make it.
assume it's 50-50.
Oh, why is that?
I'm not sure I can say anything beyond it seems unlikely to me, right?
Based on your
And
own
so,
personal experience, I suppose. Right.
yeah, and so I think you would have to
And
actually,
your optimism probably. It affects that too, I suppose.
yeah, I wouldn't say it's undue optimism, but yeah, my optimism.
Right.
And so like if if I'm going to say I think the risk is worth it, you saying you don't think the risk is worth it is not going to convince me, right? You would have to actually like
Sure.
give me some reason to think it's not worth it, right?
Yeah, yeah, I guess you're right.
And like, yeah, I would totally agree with you. Like, if we could get the data, then, I would do what the data says. But we don't have that data. So I
Um,
can only really go off my own judgment.
oh boy. Hmm, what can I say then? Um, God damn it. Hmm, okay, let me try this one then.
And I searched online, and it does seem to be like we basically have no data on this.
Okay, all right, let me try something.
None that I could find in one search.
Hmm. Uh, do you think we have a moral obligation to create um, childrens and to create babies?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Like,
So, what do you think that will change if all just let's say everyone decide
wait,
not to have babies?
let
So,
me let me be clear. Let me be clear. Um, I don't think so, at least on an individual level. But if I thought about it more, then there could possibly be some obligation for society to continue because of our effects on wild animals and whatnot. So it's sort of like a loose no. I just wanted to add that
okay.
nuance.
All right. So that means then that if everyone stop, let's say every woman in the world doesn't want to have kids anymore, then that will be a problem under your view, right? Because sooner or late, no kids, no more people, therefore, society collapse, no more people in the world, and whatever that entails, right? So then that's an issue for you, correct?
Yeah, an issue, yeah.
Right. So out of curiosity now, though, I mean, if that was the case, what you will suggest to happen? Like, if let's say all the women don't want to procreate nor give their eggs to facilities to do at least artificial babies, right? Let's say none of that happens. So what will you like to happen? Not to convince them. Let's say they cannot be convinced. So what's then for you?
Hmm.
What you will think about it? Like, should we like
Well,
force them? Will you be like in favor of take some of them and force them for, procreation or something else?
no, I wouldn't force them. Um, I would say it's against my preferences, and obviously we can assume these aren't possibilities, but I would look into possibilities like artificial wombs or asexual reproduction, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but I said those are not possible, let's say.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I I
Well,
said that.
I
So,
wouldn't force them.
right. So you will accept basically the inevitable end that, because of them, right? Or vice versa. Let's say the men don't want whatever, or all the human, or whatever. So the point is, you will accept the end of humanity then, right?
Yeah, it would be against my preferences, but yeah.
Mm, I see. Yeah, that was just like a parenthesis thing. I was curious for that. Now to go back actually to trying to convince you, will you say then it's not like we are morally obligated to make vegan on an individual level, right? Make vegan children's and throw them out in the world to help others become vegan, right? You will not say a vegan family, a vegan couple have this obligation to have vegan children, right? You will not say that in an individual level, correct?
Yeah.
Right. But will you say again on an individual level, it will be uh, like a moral obligation not to have a child if um, or if there is whatever percent you like, not to stop being vegan.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes, will you say again on an individual level, uh, a, a vegan couple not to have a kid if there is um, a high chance, according to you, whatever that number is, um, to not procreate if that was the case, that their child will, has high chances to stop being vegan after, age 18 or something.
Um, I couldn't tell you what the number is,
Yeah, I'm not asking the
but
number. Hmm.
yeah, I think like my intuition is like if there's a high enough chance, I'd probably say don't do it.
Mm, mm,
And by the
I
way, it's
see.
not, yeah. Obviously in the real world when people I know have kids, it's yada yada, congratulations. But yeah, I don't think that they should be bringing more non-vegans.
Right. Okay. Oh man. Well, I don't know. I don't think I can convince you. And I think the fundamental reason is, like you said, probably it's a mix of our, optimism and pessimism plus some different like inherent values we have. Like, I think, the chances even maybe they're not high, which I don't have. I'm not like bent in either direction. Like if you do the dice for me, I'm like it's three and versus three, like if a six die. So, but still, I'm like better not. Well, you don't. So I don't think I can convince you on that. Now, if there is nothing else you want to say, I would like to just ask you one thing about like not a completely different topic, but yeah, like go to a different like subtopic maybe.
Yeah, well, I guess I would just like to ask one thing,
Mm.
which is like, yeah, I mean, it's in like I haven't really tried to convince you the other way, but I would agree that like I'm not persuaded it's a bad thing.
Do you want to
But
try to convince me the other way?
no, I'm saying I have not tried to
Yeah,
yet.
I know. I say, do you want to?
Oh, not really, because I still maintain like a certain level of agnosticism, right? Like
Mm,
it's not like I'm hell bent on,
mm,
let's pop out babies. Um,
right. Yeah, we
but
have similar views anyway in some aspect on that antinatalism. Plus, like I told you, I don't also think it's inherently wrong to procreate,
yeah,
which I think most antinatalists think it's inherently wrong, if I'm not mistaken.
that's the impression I get. But I guess what I would ask is like, um, if this is just a difference in values, that's one thing. But do you think there's like any kind of significant flaw in my view?
Uh, by flaw, if you mean if I found like a contradiction or some
Yeah,
or
yeah,
some,
something like that.
uh, not really. I didn't notice anything. If I notice, I will
Hmm.
not be shy. I will tell you, that's a contradiction or something. But
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't
But
notice anything.
I
Yeah.
just want that clearly stated because then obviously any audience member is going to say like, well, we've got like kind of two valid positions, right? As opposed to like, yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, but if it was a debate, right? Which I mean, you said it was for a moment. You said debate, but I told you let's chat. It's more like a discussion. I wasn't prepared as a hardcore debate, and I didn't want to because again, I'm not um, very informative when it comes to antinatalism that much, right? So plus I didn't study too much about it before our this discussion anyway. But if it was a debate, then I guess I was the losing side because the debate was to convince you, and I failed. So you are the winner if it was a debate, I suppose.
I'm not sure I did say this was a debate. If I did, it's I sort of misspoke. Yeah, I agree. This is a discussion.
Right. Um, okay.
And if
And
there's,
yeah,
you said there was another topic, so I'm
yeah,
happy
yeah.
to go there.
Sure. So. Um, I will assume then your views are also when it comes to what the word again, extinctionalism, right? From extinction. Yeah. I guess also you are against the whole like the world cease to exist, right? You think that will be a bad thing or uh, based on your views on antinatalism, I'm positive that you will say that it's bad if someone pressed the red button and the world explodes, correct?
Um, to be honest, it's hard to say, right?
Mm.
Because uh, I'm not really sure how much I'm just genuinely not sure on how much I value bringing someone into existence if they're going to have a good life, right? Like, let's say the world was paradise. Um, I'm not really sure that I would really care about bringing new people into that as opposed to just making the world better. So, like, basically, what I'm saying to that is like, I'm pretty unsure as to whether like a future Earth, um, that's very good, which is the direction I believe we're heading in, would be better than uh like ending all suffering on Earth right now. Because there
Yeah,
is
not
so
just
much
suffering,
suffering
right?
on Earth.
And the whole world, like everything, explodes, completely gone, right?
Yeah.
You get that, right? Yeah.
So I guess I'm just sort of unsure. Yeah. At one point I
Mm,
definitely would have pressed the button, but like now I don't know. I
right.
probably would just abstain for now.
I think I can. Well, I mean, I don't want to say, but okay, I think I can convince you though on that specific claim.
Well, let me tell you what would convince me, or rather, um, I don't know if I can tell you what would convince me, but
Ah, okay.
if
Do
I would
you?
say that if I decide that I do value bringing happy lives into existence, then I definitely would not press the button. Whereas if I decide I don't value that, then I probably would press the button. And as it stands, I'm unsure what my values are with regard to that.
Okay, let me help you out then. So,
Please do.
yeah, so the way I see it is has nothing to do with what future people or future sentient creatures going because they are not exist right now, so it doesn't really matter. We don't give them rights, we don't give them anything to non-existence, right? So all that matters is the current present, right? That the time and present and how things are right now at this very moment. So at this very moment, right? If you think like again, the 90% of all sentient life is in a pretty bad shape, right? You know, in nature, the life you know, many humans too. I mean, not all of us, of course, but there are millions, maybe even a billion or two of people who are like, living horrible lives, poverty, malnourished, and all that shit, right? Starvation, all that. So, and of course, all the trillions of animals we farm and exploit every year. So, I think based on that and that alone, like if you put the suffering and the well-being in a big scale, the suffering outweigh the well-being in such a huge degree will make sense to just end it and like sacrifice the well-being, which is the 0.1% of just few people, like few millions people, few billions people, and maybe also some animals will live like pets, right? I mean, I guess cats and dogs in homes, most of them, I assume they live good lives. Although there are, of course, owners that they abuse them. But yeah, so there is few billions of sentient creatures that lives quite good, worth living lives. But I think that trillions upon trillions of animals don't. Now, I'm not even count insects because I'm unsure if they are sentient or their sentient is significant enough to experience, like suffering and pain and have the will to live. But of course, if we count them too, the number becomes, astronomical. Like we cannot even have a number if we count insect. If we say they are highly sentient, which I'm not saying they are necessarily, but yeah. So based on that, I think it's reasonable to just say, yeah, to end all suffering, it's worth it by pressing the button and sacrifice, the tiny well-being that exists in a line like that, right? Because no one is perfect, like a straight line or an up line. Like we have a vast, like our emotional state is, fluctuate, right? So, um, so yeah, I think it's worth it for that reason and that reason alone.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, there is a sense in which I would agree it's like reasonable. Um, and I think you've like laid out the case for pressing the button, as well as anyone. But it's just like I'm not sure. Maybe like this is something internal that I'm trying to settle. But like as of now, I don't know. Maybe I
Mm.
will care about future beings. I mean,
Okay, let me give you a hypothetical then.
mhm.
Imagine that aliens come down to the Earth and enslave all of us and all the animals, and they factory farm us all. They breed us, they keep factory farm us all. Now, let's say, the numbers of us and other animals is, again, the same numbers we are doing. So basically, flip the script and put us with the animals we already have inside the factories, right? And on top of us is just a handful of 6 billion aliens who just doing those things to us. In that scenario, will you press the button? Yes or no?
Right. So it's essentially, would I press the button if I was an animal, like being factory
No,
farmed?
if you were you right now, but you know, with the other animals inside those places, and above you, there were just another species, right? Aliens in that hypothetical that do
Ye-
exactly the same things that we do to the animals. They do to humans and the other animals, and all of that shit happen, right? So basically, yeah, that's it. So, well,
Sure.
then,
I'm just saying it's similar to like if I would press the button if I were the one experiencing factory farming or whatnot. I'm not saying it's the exact hypothetical.
among your species and everyone, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
and your family and every human. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I don't think it would really sway my position, right? Like, obviously, if I was in that position, I might be, like I would prefer to be euthanized, right? So that might drive me to press the button, right? But if I do take that sort of detached
Can
view,
you
it's
just
like,
wait one minute? I'm sorry, maybe it's
no worries,
important.
all good.
Okay. Oh boy. Well, I'm so sorry for that. It was quite important, actually. So
That's all good.
yeah,
Um,
so sorry. So yeah, you because I interrupt you. Yeah, sorry.
no worries.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I'd say like if I was in that situation, like I think it would still depend on my values, right? If my values are such that like, oh well, this alien species is eventually going to develop a world that is going to be like essentially a utopia, and I value the lives that will be born into that world, then I would not press the button. But if my values are not according to that, then I would. And as it stands right now, I'm agnostic.
Interesting. So you will accept, so basically depends on your knowledge of what's the end goal of the aliens, right? But if you don't know that and all you know is you suffering right now, you're gonna
Yeah, if
get
I
your
didn't
throat slit
know if it
open.
was like potentially going to go on forever, then yeah, it might be worth pressing the button.
Right. Okay. So I guess in the similar way, because this is more to see the consistency you have between that hypothetical with our current world, because in this world we are in a sense the aliens and the other animals are like us, right? So I guess then because of your optimism again, you think they will be liberated one day and it may worth it, right? Their sacrifice and all what's going on to them, right? At the end, we have a vegan world and there's no more factory farms and all that. But if you, of course, today, like if like you've been convinced that you know humans will continue to do that to those sentient creatures and factory farm them for the end of time, then I guess you will press the button too in this
Yeah,
world.
if that was the case, then yeah, I would press the button.
Yeah, okay, so quite consistent there for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
like Earth as it stands is like currently a very bad place for the vast
sure.
majority of beings.
Mhm.
So yes,
Right. But you think right now it's worth just because of your optimism, it's worth all the torment because there is this chance, right, that things we will get better, right? There's a hope, and that hope is what holding you not to press the button if you had it, correct?
Uh, yeah, if I had the button in front of me right now, I would not press it, but I would think long and hard about it, and I'd seek advice. Um,
Mm,
because yeah, there's a bit of agnosticism there.
I see. But I don't have, so would you mind if ship me the button so I can do, whatever I want? Mm.
I can't say I would do that. Sorry,
Oh, God damn it. Okay. Okay, cool. I mean, well, it's
but
all,
maybe I'll invite you to be on the committee that decides.
mm, right. Okay, cool. Well, I don't know, I don't think I have anything else to say. So yeah, I think, it was, fun, I guess, talk about with you about those things. Well, too bad I haven't be able to convince you, I mean, but I'm not gonna lose my night for that. After all, we are quite similar, because again, I'm not a hardcore, generally I avoid, absolutes and extreme positions. And, I think most things lies in a threshold, in thresholds. And, I also think context depends on most things. So, and that's makes my whole ideology, position, philosophy very flexible, I think. And yeah. Mm,
Hmm. Let me ask you, if you knew that like tomorrow we'd
mm,
wake up in like a vegan world, life is just beautiful for everyone, but
mm,
you got the button right now,
mm.
would you press the button?
Okay, let me repeat. Wake up tomorrow, and the world is basically a paradise, whatever that means, right? Like super, like the maximize well-being, decrease suffering to 0.001% or something, right?
Yeah,
So for all sentient creatures.
yeah,
Well, I don't see a reason to press them. I mean, I would like to keep it just in case
right.
something
But
bad happens.
that seems to imply that you would value that sort of future scenario.
Well, if it's tomorrow, after all, you say I wake up and it's here. So why I will press it if it's already here and it's to right? I mean, what reason I will? That would be stupid to press it if I
No, no,
value
no, no, no.
well-being, right?
So if it's not clear, right
Oh,
now you get the button,
right. Okay.
right? Right now in this kind of shitty world,
All right.
you get a button that
Mm,
will blow up the whole planet, right? Instant
right.
painless
Yeah.
death.
Mm-hmm,
But you also get the knowledge that
mm-hmm.
tomorrow
Literally
the
tomorrow?
world the world will become a total paradise. Would you press the
Literally.
button today?
You say tomorrow in a literary sense, right? Not tomorrow in like literally tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, like in 24 hours.
Oh, okay. Now that's interesting because until tomorrow, how many suffering and death will occur, right, in nature and inside all of those, breeding facilities and slaughterhouses, right? Probably hundreds of millions, if not billions, right?
Hmm.
So it's interesting. And like intuition wise, like I'm thinking I should resist not to press it because although do I have the knowledge that tomorrow that this paradise will arrive will remain like that forever
Yeah, you
or
know it's going to remain like
oh
that, let's
oh
say.
shit, oh man. Now, that is actually difficult, even though it might not be for many people, because they think, the long run, right? Like, oh, look, the long run, right? Paradise for all eternity. Yes. But the suffering for one day is fucking extreme based on the sheer numbers. Also, yeah, quality and quantity, right? Because, it's also immense suffering for the individual and there are billions individuals, right? So it's way too much suffering. Now, oh man, yeah, it's actually hard because I'm thinking about the ones right now that they beg for mercy, and I can give the mercy, right? And maybe also my misanthropistic nature, which I have, also um, play a role here because I'm like, humans don't work that heaven because of the sins we have done all of these centuries between us and the war between us and the other animals. So I'm like, it's not worth it. We should all go fucking die. But again, that's maybe the best of me, right? Like my misanthropistic nature beat me on that. Um, so like I want to say no, but I don't think I will say no. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard for the reason I just mentioned. It's kind of hard. 24 hours is too much. If you say 1 hour, maybe I'm like, oh, okay, just hundreds of thousands of stuff of torture and suffering. It's a threshold thing, right? Because of course you can
But
extend not tomorrow. You can say to me next month, and the more you extend, the more easier for me to push it right now. Correct?
even if it's 1 hour, it does seem to imply that you care about, achieving this future
Yeah,
paradise at
I
the cost
care.
of massive suffering.
Sure, of course I care. I've never
Right.
said
But
I
it
don't
seems
care.
like
Yeah.
previously you said that all that matters is what we're experiencing right now, right? Or did I
Right.
misunderstand?
Sure, when it comes to suffering.
Hmm. Right. So am I missing something? Like if all that matters is
But
right
you take
now
that
and
out
not like,
of context, though, right? It was all that matters right now, and I said something in a specific scenario, or what was it? It was like, I don't know, 20 minutes ago, something. I didn't say it out of the blue. I think I said something, and inside that something, I say all that matters right now. It was something else in the, like, you know what I mean? It was, I think, context too there. Maybe
sure, I
not, but
can't
I think it
remember the
was
exact context
me too.
around it.
That's the
So
problem.
it's
I don't know if I
possible
say
it
it out
might
of the
not be
blue.
a
Yeah,
contradiction. I guess I would say,
yeah. If I say it
yeah,
out of the blue, I think it will be very weird to say all that matters is now and not the future out of the blue. I think I said it with something else, pack it with someone that makes sense. I I'm highly confident, but maybe I'm wrong and I fucked up. I don't know. Yeah.
hmm,
But yeah, definitely. I mean, I value well-being and and suffering, right? Those my some pillars of my how I use morality. Let's say like value, like suffering and well-being. So of course I value well-being, and that's why I told you in your scenario, I think it's hard because yeah, if it's well-being for all eternity, why the fuck I would press the button? But it's not right now, it's in one day. And in that one day, many bad things going to happen, right? A lot of suffering and death and torture. So, and that's bad. So plus again, it's my maybe I'm biased in terms of um, our species, right? I really despise humanity as a whole. Not an individual level, of course, but as a whole, I think we are like a disease in this world. So um, I kind of like want to press it, but I don't want to. So that's why I said it's very difficult for me to give you like an answer yes or no, right? Um, at least for one day. Again, if you keep make it less than a day or more than a day, of course my attitude may change because it's a threshold thing, I suppose.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah. I guess interesting to hear your view on that. Um, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh man. But to be honest, I value suffering more than well-being, like generally. Like, and to give you an example, I have thought many years ago, if I ask you, will you trade one day in hell for one day in paradise? Will you do it? Like, imagine the
Sure.
worst thing imaginable for you, like physically, mentally, what have you. But if you endure that for 24 hours, then you go to heaven for 24 hours and you will have the most blissful whatever experience. Is it
Yeah,
that
I
so?
probably would not do that. Yeah.
Right. And that's an indication to me that you also
Although
value
that
suffering more
potentially,
than well-being.
I would say that that potentially like speaks more to like how bad the worst bads are versus how good the best goods are, than like whether goods and bads are actually valued equally. But
Well,
like
but you can
it's a
imagine that,
totally
right?
sorry.
You can imagine the worst thing you can possibly imagine and the best thing you can possibly imagine, right?
Yeah, I think the worst things are probably worse than the best things are good.
Right.
Um,
And right, yes.
if that makes sense. But like it's a different thing than valuing suffering and pleasure unequally, right? Like you may you may have like I don't know, let's just say like -10 negative utility versus +10 positive utility. You might um you might hate the -10 more than you value the +10. And that's totally coherent, I guess.
But will you say that? I mean, based on my experience, when I ask that, most people say, "Yeah, I'm not gonna do it." Even if I put 10 days in heaven and 1 day in hell, or 100 to 1 ratio, no matter how much I add it, most people, when I explain what will be, the torture and the suffering in hell and the well-being, most people say, "Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do it. It's not worth it." Which is an indication to me how much people value this utility, as you said, right, versus the utility they can gain. Um,
Yeah, I mean, me personally, like at some point, I would probably say yes. Can't tell you where exactly that point is, but like
mhm,
I'm not really disagreeing with you on that. I'm just saying I would phrase that slightly differently
mm,
than like
mm,
you did.
I see. Mm, okay. Um, right. So I'm guessing in your hypothetical you gave me, you will not press it if it was 1 day, correct? Obviously. So for you, it's a
Yeah,
it's
I
a
mean,
no it's a
largely due
no-brainer,
to
right?
it, yeah, potentially due to
Mm,
agnosticism. Like, it's not totally out
mm.
of the question that I would ever press it, but like if I got it right now, I would not press it. That's where I'm at.
Right. Especially if tomorrow it will be the heaven on earth, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, right. Sure. Makes sense. Based on your own preferences, I guess. Right. Oh man. Oh boy. Anyway. Okay. That's it then. If there is not something else, I don't
Yeah,
know. Do you want
I'm happy
to?
to leave it there.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So if there is nothing else, I'll take my leave.
Sure, yeah, I would just say, yeah, it was good speaking with you. And I, yeah, hope this is useful to whoever ends up watching it too.